Dave, we know you're a big X-Men fan, and I'm sure you watched the original back in the day. How excited are you of a new reboot of this show?
Yes, because I am old. I watched the original X-Men TV show, and I am not going to lie. I am super excited for this show. Are you excited for this at all? Have you seen the original TV show?
I did not see the original TV show, to be
No.
honest, and so I didn't know. I honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest. I didn't do as much research as I normally do because I know that you've watched it and you're gonna have a lot more to say. But I am excited because I like that animated style.
Yeah.
So like I feel like they stuck to what that old animated style is for the original to today,
Yeah.
and so Disney they're doing something right for you, Dave.
I'm excited for this one. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm
Mhm.
going to throw it out there, and I put a challenge in the comments anyone to come up with a better answer because I would love to hear it. But I think that the X-Men theme song from the animated series is probably one of the most recognizable, cool theme songs in all of TV shows. That it's just you hear that and you're just like, I'm so jacked up right now.
Dave, am I gonna make you disappointed? Like, I
You-
can't think of it at the top of my head,
Bro.
so I might have to play it real quick. So
I'm
you get talking, I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna pull
Okay.
it up as you're
All right.
talking.
All right. Let's pull it up because I think just as soon as you hear it, you're gonna be like, oh my God, yeah. But yeah, so before we jump into the trailer, since I know a lot of people might not have seen the original series, there's a couple things that I want to go through. So the original TV show, and I apologize, I'm looking at my notes because I did take a lot of notes and I just want to make sure that I nail these dates and names and stuff. The original TV show debuted on Fox on October 31st in 1992. And it ran for 5 seasons until it was canceled in 1996. And I do want to say that if you have an opportunity to watch the original series, it still does hold up today. I know a couple of the series that I watched from back then, namely, I tried rewatching like the Turtles animated series. And the Spider-Man one I tried rewatching. Those ones did not hold up. This one does hold up today. I mean, I watched it all the way through and I thought it was just fantastic. And basically the reason that they're calling this X-Men 97 is because this series is supposed to take place directly after the cancellation of the original series. So it's going to follow it's going to be a direct continuation of that series. It was canceled in 1996, hence why this one is called X-Men 97, just taking up the next year's spot. And I do want to say a couple things before we take a look at the trailer, because I think the trailer is really, really cool. But I do think you need to kind of have a little bit of a backstory. So in the final episode, it's very important to know that in the final episode, and guys, this will have spoilers. So if you are planning on watching the TV show, the original series, you might want to fast forward a little bit. But at the end of the original TV show, Professor X does not actually die, and we're going to see this. This is going to be very important when we take a look at the trailer, but just keep that in mind that he does not actually die. And in the end of the final episode, there's a man, Henry Peter Gyrick, who attacks Professor X. Professor X almost dies, and he's kind of laid up in this hospital bed, right? Following those events, the X-Men then sneak into Genosha, where Magneto is a warlord preparing to attack all of humanity. And the X-Men tell them that his friend is dying. So if you guys don't know anything about the X-Men series, Magneto is one of the top tier enemies of the X-Men, but him and Professor X kind of have a long-standing friendship that stems way back into their childhood. So the X-Men tell Magneto that his friend is dying, and instead of taking on this attack of humanity, he decides to lay down his arms, and he heads over to visit Professor X to check in on his friend. At the end of the episode, though, Professor X has a love interest, and this love interest's name is Elandra. I believe I'm saying that right. And she's the ruler of the galactic.
Alejandra?
Uh, yeah, Alejandra.
Sure, Alejandra.
Alejandro?
Yeah,
Did
that
I
sounds
blow
right
it?
to me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
I'm just thinking of what that name kind of sounds like to me.
I always thought it was pronounced Alondra, but I could be wrong. Guys, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong there. She is the Galactic Shi'ar Empire, and she says that she can cure Professor X. But he does have to come live in her world in space, which actually does happen in the comics, and then does happen at the end of the TV show. So you see at the end of the TV show, Professor X and El E- E-
Alejandra.
Elandra take off into space, and he basically leaves Cyclops in charge. Yeah, and then the show is picking up right here, so we can go ahead and roll into the trailer.
Trailer time.
Now, the trailer is really, really cool because there's a couple of key features. So if you look, so this is actually the original footage from the last
Mhm.
TV show, and you can see that he's kind of laying in bed, right? And I
Yep.
like that they threw some Easter eggs around. So if you look at the TV, you can see like the tapes. There's like a Days of Future Past tape up there, and then
Yep. Yep.
bunch of stuff. What's really funny is they have the picture of Jean Grey and Cyclops on the side of the TV from that Wolverine
Mhm.
meme, like the sad
Yep.
Wolverine meme. That was really, really cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, there's so what's happening here is I don't, they're showing footage of like a funeral and Professor X's death. So what I'm kind of thinking here is like they're probably gonna play on the fact that this cure that Alejandra said that she could do did not actually work, and Professor X actually died.
Okay.
So I think that's where they're gonna lead into. Can you hear the background music?
Okay, I do know it now.
That's yes, that's the theme song right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't it so sick?
It's so good.
I love it, dude. And they kept the original style. I love this part right here too, where Gambit's on the back of Wolverine, and
yeah.
he like, dude, he uses his power to like infuse it into Wolverine's claws. Like, bro,
I'm excited for this too. I think it is going to be one. I wonder if like you don't really know like the whole series of the original at this one, like if that really matters, except for the fact I think it's going to have a recap of like this is what happened, and like you said, maybe it's alternate timeline where Professor X actually dies. And that's where everything else happens. You think that's kind of where they could go with it?
so that's what I'm kind of thinking is what's going to happen here is that basically I think the premise behind this show is like we said that they're going to do a timeline in which this cure does not work and Professor X is actually dead. And there's a couple things that you can see from the trailer that are really, really, really important. And one of the main things that you see is that end spot where Magneto is kind of holding the last will and testament of Charles Xavier. And basically the line that he says in the trailer is that everything now belongs to me. And I think that's a really, really good indication of which run in the comic books they're going to kind of take this with. And the way that he says it is really sinister, right? So you make it, they're making it kind of feel like he's kind of a bad guy in this situation. But I think that's a red herring just because the way that he's delivering it, right? It makes it seem like, oh no, this is a bad thing. But if you really like kind of dissect the trailer and go back into the comic books, there was a section in the comic books where this did actually happen. It started in X-Men 200, which that issue debuted in September 10th, 1985. And what happens in that episode is Professor X has a heart attack, and he tells Magneto that he needs him to take over the school and take over all of his duties, right? Magneto agrees to this, and this is where in the comic books, Magneto does his like good guy turn, right? So he turns into a good guy for a little while, which we'll talk about later. But for this specific section, he does turn into a good guy. He tries to turn over a new leaf. He takes over the school. He tries to be a good person and do the right thing. And you can kind of signify this because if you look at X-Men 200, that episode, he's rocking this they call it the big M suit, which is the suit that he's wearing in the trailer with the big M across his chest. And when he's wearing that suit, that's kind of signifying him as being, a good guy. And I think
Like part of the
that
X-Men?
yeah, he's actually like being part of the X-Men. I think that's the run that they're going to be doing in this TV show, which is kind of cool because I like that run and I don't think anybody's ever touched it before.
I honestly like the fact that they are sticking to the same style. They're not trying to like it's gonna be more modernized, but they're not trying to go for this like animated 3D look. You know what I mean? They're sticking to what the original comics were, and I think that's a true like this is something that Marvel and Disney is like taking in the right direction, I think. And that's we've talked about this so much on the podcast of like Disney's ruining these franchises, but at this point, I think this is a good way for Disney to kind of step back away from a lot of the negative with the live actions and stuff like that, but give something to a new audience of like these animated shows, but also like an old audience. So like you and me who like kind of grew up with this kind of style of animation. And I think that's really cool that they're doing that. And I'm excited because I love X-Men. I don't know the story as well as you do, and I'm after I'm done binge watching all these animes, I'm probably gonna go back to the X-Men now because I'm gonna watch this as well.
They definitely stuck to the style that I loved. And I do think this is a great opportunity to bring in a new audience and give the fans, an older audience like me, something that we can all like enjoy together. You know what I mean? Like you can. This is an animated X-Men cartoon, so it's obviously going to appeal to kids. But you know, older people like me that were fans and grew up on the original series, it's like I want to see this too. They kept the original animation style, which I love. They brought back a lot of the original voice actors to redo the voices for these characters, which I thought was amazing. And I know that there are some like rumblings out there that it's like, you know, they don't sound really correct. But like, guys, it's you know, they are the same people. They're just this is like 30 years later. Like they're old now. They're gonna sound a little bit different.
What do you mean? They still don't sound like a teenager when they're like
Yeah.
60? Like
Yeah, so I mean, it is the same people doing the voices. They might sound a little bit different, but I think we got to cut them some slack a little bit because you know it is 30 years later, so they are a little bit older now. But yeah, I think it's gonna be really really good. I think it's gonna be something that people should check out. I do have a little bit of a prediction of what's gonna kind of happen in this
Mhm.
series. So
Dave's predictions. We
again,
gotta ooh, maybe we should have that as a button.
that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should
Next
add
time.
that next
Yeah.
time. We'll add it for next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one is speculation. So I mean, I could 100% be wrong, or this could be spoilers. So up to you guys if you want to listen to this part. But basically, we talked about how Magneto had this run of being a good guy, and unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. So in 1988. There's a series that came out that was called The Fall of the Mutants. And I will save the story for that because if you guys want to check out that series, it's actually a really, really, really good series in the comic books that I think people should check out. So I won't spoil that. But basically, there's many factors here in play that kind of lead to this breakdown of Magneto. And unfortunately, after all of these factors, Magneto not only reverts back to being a villain, but reverts back to being a villain in the most hardcore sense that you possibly can. So I do think that this is kind of the series that we're going to see. We should probably see this evolution of Magneto taking over the school, becoming a good guy, and then all of these events that kind of lead to his breakdown. And I do believe the season finale of this show will be Magneto turning back into a villain and setting up the course of actions that will happen in the next series. So that's just what I think. Yeah, but I mean it should be really really good. So yeah, guys, if you guys haven't checked out the original series, check out the original series cuz it does still hold up, and if you're excited for this one like I am, it will be streaming on Disney Plus on March 20th.
It's coming up. A lot of March things coming up. All right, Dave, before we kind of move on, I have one question. What do you think could go wrong with this series? Kind of a hard question. Like, where do you think this, like, I know how excited you are, but what are some things that you are worried about with it becoming a new edition of the story, or like a new continuation of the original?
I think it's the same thing that I'm always concerned about, and you know, we touched on this with the Avatar: Last Airbender. I mean, the source material is there for you guys. I I highly doubt that anybody from Marvel working on the show will ever see this, but on the off chance that you do, the source material is there for you guys, and you do not need to stray away. Honestly, like my prediction, quote unquote prediction, is what happens in the comic books, and that is a great storyline for you guys to storyboard throughout an entire episode, having Charles Xavier die at the beginning of the season, having Magneto take over, and then this just path to him falling apart, right? And it's a perfect storyline. Please, please, please just stick to that storyline and don't try to do anything goofy and add any weird stuff where I can't even imagine what they would add, but just the only thing that can go wrong here is that they just throw some ridiculous wrench in the storyline that makes 0 sense.
And I guess another question I have is, so how many episodes were, do you know, like per season it was back in the day?
I don't know exactly, but it's quite a few.
Okay, so this is only going to have 10 episodes for its first season. Do you think that's going to be, are they hour-long episodes? Are they going to be 20-minute episodes? Do you
I
know?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
So, I mean, do you think that they're going to rush the story then if it's only 10?
I mean, I don't think. I mean, they're gonna do it paced. I think. I don't think it's a storyline that really needs to be rushed, though. They could very easily do this storyline and do it justice in 10 episodes because, I mean, you have to think about it from a comic book run, right? Like we talked about, the original book came out in 1985, and then the book where Magneto starts going bad again happened in 1988. I mean, that wasn't the only storyline that took place for those 3 years. You know what I mean? Like comic books have multiple storylines all kind of happening in the same time frame. I very easily think that they can do this story justice in 10 episodes. So I don't think it'll be rushed. But I do think that like fans of the original comics, I mean, there's probably going to be parts that are left out that they care about. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but I don't know. I feel like you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, I think so. And like you said, I feel like comics do have a faster pace to them too, in terms like, and there's a lot of filler too. Like there's episodes or books that are filler, waiting for the next kind of move into the story. And I see that with Dragon Ball. It's like the last like 4 episodes of Dragon Ball. It's like, why did I watch those? Like I probably should just moved on to Dragon Ball Z. Essentially, it's like Goku and his wife like just go try to find this fan to put out a fire, and like that was the end of it. And it's like, okay, I'm done with this. I should have just moved on. But so I mean, there's gonna be episodes that are, I think there's gonna be no filler, and I feel like a good amount of time would probably be like a 30 to 45 minute episode.
Yeah, I mean, if they do like a 45 minute to an hour episode, I mean, it's a 10 hour movie. You know, they could tell that story in 10 hours, I think. And it's a give and take, right? It's like, do you want 40 episodes that are kind of slow moving, or you want 10 episodes that might miss a couple things but are just jam packed 10 episodes of awesomeness?
And that's me. You know me, Dave. The faster I can have the meat and potatoes, the better. Overall, I'm really excited about this. I'm glad you're super excited about this because we know we both of us have kind of had this negative feel towards Disney and Marvel, but I'm excited for this one. Look at that. 2 back-to-back Disney things or Marvel things. It's kind of gotten us excited with Deadpool and now X-Men, and we kind of see the correlation. They both have some level of involvement with X-Men.
And both seem to be kind of doing their own thing, and not kind of conforming to the rigorous guidelines that Disney usually imposes. So this could be a good sign for Disney and the Marvel franchises going forward, that maybe they're kind of loosening up the ties a little bit and letting the creatives be a little bit more creative, which I think they need to let them do.